Yo, what's up, Square Pip Brigade? On this episode, we have comedian Bob DiBuono. He's here, and we discuss playing his plays. He does a Trump impression, and touring with YG and Kendrick Lamar, making friends with black people, and dating a cop's daughter. So it was a really interesting, little off the beaten path, but we loved it. It was good. One of those, breaks from everything else.
Yeah, it was a fun show. Great stories. But also, when we're done with that, if you want to join us, the show continues over at Patreon, patreon.com/manschool202. We do a lot of bonus content. We answer listener mail. And this week's episode, after Bob is done, we do the Patreon episode where we discuss what happens when a woman leaves a marriage. We do an actual kind of a real-time breakdown of a consultation that you got and what you should do when your wife asks for time to find herself, and how that affects the marriage, and also the expectations of what a man has to do in a relationship. So join us over at patreon.com/manschool202. That helps us out a lot. We appreciate it.
I'm not an alpha male. I'm not a beta male either. I'm just a better man. Well, put your happiness first, because if you don't, they won't. Yo, what's up, y'all? GYBB, get your balls back. WWDD, What Would Dante Do? The Sexual Revolution is being podcasted, and I am excited.
Nice.
We got a special guest, Harry, and I know I've said that 500 times before, but this time I really mean it.
Wow.
Wow. First and foremost, how you doing, Harry? You good?
Excellent, Dante. I'm doing excellent. I have a tough time keeping these gators down, but other than that, excellent.
Dope. I want to get into it because this dude we got on the show today, a comedy, a road dog. One of my road dogs. This dude's been in the game. What now, Bobby? What is it now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Been doing it about 2 weeks. You got really good.
You had a hot TikTok video that took off, and now
one TikTok video blew up, and you're a comic. Give it up for my boy Bob DiBuono. What up, Bobby?
Hey, but man, how are you?
How you been, Bobby? You good?
Age, Dante. You don't age. You get better looking every time I see you.
I wish I felt as horrible as I look. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So what's going on in the world of Dante Nero?
Oh, man. Nothing. I live a quiet life.
Nothing about you is quiet. You're like me. There's nothing about you that's nothing quiet.
You still on the road, bro? I mean, thank God Trump is a racist. You still got work.
There's always going to be racism, Dante. Therefore, I will always have a job.
Just so the fans know that Bobby does one of the most amazing Trump impressions, and as much as Trump pimps everybody else, Bobby is pimping Trump, and he's not giving him none of the proceeds. None of them. He gets nothing.
Screw that guy, man.
But Bobby, is you still working? They still hiring you, and
for those that are listening and that don't know, kind of the evolution of this. It literally was me creating a character for an SNL audition, and they were like, "Oh, you got to do something contemporary. You can't walk in doing like a Nicholson."
Right.
Hey, how are you? I'm Jack Nicholson. Here I am, hired. You can't do that. You can't do Al Pacino. You can't walk in going, "Hey, is it Norm Macdonald there? Hey, man, I want to be on SNL there." That'd be great there. But you got to walk in with something contemporary. And I remember being like, God, I got to come up with a character. Like, who's really hot?
What year was this?
2000, early 2016.
16.
Maybe even 15, like towards the end of 15. And I remember going on other shows, and people like Kurt Metzger, another comedian, being like, you got Trump down yet? You got to get Trump. He's running, he's running for president. And of course he was a buffoon. It was like, this guy's running for president. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So every show wanted to have a podcast, and talk shows were like, you got to bring someone on that can do the Trump, Yeah. So I'm like, I got to work on Trump. So I started working on Trump. Took me 4 months, finally get the voice down. And then I pitched it to Rory Albanese, who worked over at the Nightly Show. And I'm like, well, they do stuff that's political. I'm like, hey, if you ever need a Trump, I think I got it down.
Yeah.
you know, like he pitched it to Larry 2 weeks later. I come back from Mexico on vacation. They're like, hey, they want you to come in and like read for this thing. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So I go in, read for it. And then that night I'm in front of a live audience, you know, on Comedy
Let me
Central.
give the background. Rory Albanese is the guy who created the nightly show with Larry Wilmore. We just had Mike Yard on there, so he was one of the main guys on it. And so you know, this is like too insider. But go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, they love the Trump. They bring me in. I do a reading that night. I'm on the show. Next thing you know, they offer me like a contract. I'm like the Donald Trump on the show for like that season. And then every week I'd come on and I would do like this Trump appearance, and it was great. And Larry Wilmore really liked it a lot, and it was great. And then the show goes off the air, and I'm thinking my phone is going to be ringing off the hook.
Right.
I'm get all these SNL, they're all going to want me. And for like 8 months, the phone did not ring, and I was like, holy crap! Like, how is this like the hottest character? I've been on every show doing this, but I think once he won. There was such a hangover.
It was less fun. It was less
early
fun
on. It was like hilarious. It was like,
because it was a buffoon.
Right. Right. Exactly. It was a joke. It was hilarious. And then when he won, it wasn't so funny anymore. And I mean, Colbert practically cried on his show one night.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh crap! Like this guy's president. And then they wanted to control it, so they didn't want to bring any. This is my opinion. They didn't want to bring anyone on to make him funny or make him lovable. They wanted to control it. And the way to control it was all of the hosts were doing their own Trump impression. Right. Happy as it was. And then SNL wanted to bring on someone for the ratings, so they brought in Alec Baldwin. Right. And that was the beginning of it. But then after like 6-7 months, once they realized, okay, we gotta, you know, Trump's president.
We're gonna have to deal with this.
Yeah. So then I went on The View. I toured with Kendrick Lamar for a month with rapper YG. Lived on a
really? How did I didn't even know about this? What the
this is up your alley. Up your alley. So I'm getting all this stuff. I go on The View. I did Jimmy Kimmel. I do all this stuff, and now people are hiring me left and right. I'm getting hired for all these big events, and I get an email one day, and this guy's like, "Hey, I'm YG's manager, Rory. Would you be interested in doing an 18-city sold-out arena tour with YG, who's opening for Kendrick Lamar, 2017? Would you be in?" And I don't. It's going to sound white. I have no idea who Kendrick Lamar is.
Okay, all right.
I thought he was a linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm like, why would they want? What does a football guy want me to go with him and to do some tour? It doesn't mean
right.
I had to go look him up because I was like, I don't have that. I have David Lee Roth and Van Halen. I have Ozzy Osbourne.
It's not your wheelhouse.
My wheelhouse is like metal. I don't even know what this. So I start calling people. I'm like, oh, this thing Kendrick. And they're like, Kendrick Lamar.
Who'd you call, Bobby? Who'd you call that we knew?
I was calling. Actually, I called my girlfriend Denise. I said, Denise, I got this email. It's probably something stupid. This Kendrick Lamar. She goes, Kendrick Lamar? Oh my God, he's like big. He's huge. Yeah. And I was like, I thought he played. No, he doesn't play football, you idiot. He's like a hip hop guy. Of course, she didn't know much more than I did, but she knew.
Now, wait, let me just point out to the crowd that that is the voice that Bobby will do for any woman that's talking to him. That's his go-to.
Including my mother. How's that? I'll double down. Even my mother, I'll do that voice. So anyway, I call them back. I email them back. They're like, in 1 week, you would come out to San Jose, and you would start doing Trump, and then it's San Jose. Then we go to Sacramento, and then we're going right across the country: Utah, Nebraska. We're going to end up at American Airlines Arena in Miami. We're going to Canada. 30,000 people a night, and I'm doing Trump on stage. I'd walk out. I would do Trump for like 2.5 minutes, and it was like a rally. I'd walk out. YG would do the first like 7 songs of his concert.
Right.
I walk out. Crowd's going nuts. Stage goes black, and then all of a sudden, the crowd sees me dressed as Trump, and they start going nuts. You can see it if you type in, on YouTube.
Okay.
Type in YG FDT for fuck Donald Trump. In 2017, you'll see videos of me come up. And then there'd be a cacophony of people flipping out, screaming, yelling, laughing, crying. People, everyone getting triggered in a different way.
Right.
And I would go into Trump like I was at a rally, you know, and I'd come
Right.
out and be like, you know, it's unbelievable. Look at this turnout. And we've got a great turnout here tonight. We've got about 17 million people here tonight. And this is unbelievable. And then I'd start insulting them, you know, like all you people, many of you women, I'm going to be groping your pussies tonight. Many pussies, and many of you people I'm looking out there, I think you're Hispanic. You're going to be on the other side of the wall very quickly, I can tell you that. We're throwing you the hell out, I can tell you that. You're horrible. You're horrible people. From shithole countries, we all know that. Shitholes, total shitholes. I don't know what the hell you are. You're Hispanic, you're black, get the hell out. I started insulting the crowd, and I'm like the heel. It's like a wrestling
Yeah.
And I'm going at them and shitting on them. And meanwhile, they get more. People are throwing bottles at me, and then YG walks out behind me, and then you hear the music kick in. Fuck Donald Trump, which was a nothing song. And then in this last election, that song became this giant anthem for get Trump out of there.
Right.
Donald Trump. And so he would sing the song, the crowd would go nuts, and he would chase me off the stage. And he has a sidekick, what the hell was his name? Slim 400. I don't know if
Yeah.
And Slim would come out with YG, and Slim would like chase me and kick me in the ass. I would run off. And anyway, we did this for 4 weeks. I lived on a bus. We had 6 buses. Kendrick Lamar had 2 buses, 4 buses. YG had 2 buses. I lived on a bus with 2 strippers, 2 white guys, 4 or 5 of YG's friends, which are all Bloods from Compton. Me, the white guy, dressed as Trump.
And how was that? How was that experience?
It was nuts.
So here's. I'm going to tell you something that's interesting, and I mean, Harry's going to get mad at me because this is a relationship show. But I can't, Harry. I can't.
This is an interesting enough story. I don't mind this. It's not too. We're not talking about open mics in New York in 2000. I don't mind.
Right. So, this is a funny thing, right? So I have a friend of mine, white dude, and you and I have had like conversations about we talked about it, and here's the thing: it's what I really always loved about you, Bobby, is that there was a willing to understand a different point of view. Like you were like, well, this is how I think it is. I don't know what do you think? And we had these up at Dangerfields. We had these conversations, and so I have a friend of mine that I worked with for many years, right? And I just recently, this week actually, and I was like, did you ever see Django? Like, did you ever see the movie?
I never saw it.
Okay. And then I asked him, did you ever see
Can I ask you, is that a movie about like blacks?
Yeah.
I would never watch that. Never. No, I'm kidding. No,
but I said, did you ever see 12 Years a Slave? Yeah. He goes, no. Yeah. I go, did you ever see Rosewood? He goes, no.
Right.
I go, so these are all like iconic black movies about Selma, all of these, this is our history. And what I realize in a lot of ways, what the divide is so wide because of the fact that your experience is so infinitely different than my experience in comedy in the world in general, because these are movies that there's not a black person that didn't see them.
Right,
and these are movies that white people have no idea that they might have heard it, but they haven't. But this is kind of these movies that were true stories breaking into movies. And, Rosewood was where they burnt, this kind of like the Emmett Till thing, and they burnt the whole town up, and 12 Years a Slave. And these are all stories that we relate to because it's historically the same. And he's a liberal dude. Like this dude hates Trump, but he hasn't experienced any of these films in any way, because you can't be a black dude and not know white shit. Like, you can't play a black dude and not know. Like, you may not listen to Van Halen, but you know Van Halen.
Well, and the reason being is because if you're a minority in this country, then the majority is constantly, you're surrounded by the majority.
Right.
You're constantly being exposed to their music, their culture, their food, their ways of thinking, and
you have to navigate it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a bar doing karaoke with white dudes singing Freebird,
And I'll go one step further. I think if you live in any country where there's the majority rules and the minority does not rule, the majority there's always an arrogance. There's always an undercurrent of an arrogance that they're better. Because they're the majority.
Right.
Well, no interest in learning about the minority, but the minority has to know about the majority.
Right, because you have to navigate. Patrice used to say he would go to Europe and go, can anybody make a steak in this country? Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, can't you speak English in Italy? What the fuck is wrong with you? So there's an arrogance to that. Yeah. So I guess the question I'm asking you is, you're hanging out with a bunch of rappers and strippers and stuff. Yeah. You're in this world. Yeah. What did you learn from being in this world? Like, what did you see different? Or did you?
That is a great question. I haven't been asked that, and I've done a lot of interviews about stuff like this. And the number one thing is I tell people is that, first of all, we all grow up with our stereotypes of other people.
Right.
It's not even racism. It's just a stereotype.
It's a bias. It's a bias.
It's a bias.
Personal bias.
It could be an ignorance that you just don't understand because you haven't been taught.
Right. You have no experience.
Right. Just like you said, people don't watch these movies. It doesn't even, a guy could be the most liberal person in the world, but that doesn't mean he's not racist.
Right.
It also doesn't mean that he's not ignorant. He might be fighting for causes, but he doesn't even know what he's fighting for because he's not educated in certain areas.
Right.
So for me,
wait, I got to stop, and because that's such a profound statement. That you have a guy who's liberal as shit, but he can still be racist simply because of the fact of the scope of his knowledge and the scope of his experience. Like, look, Harry's been hanging out with me. We've been doing this podcast for 10 years. Yeah. And Harry will still go, let me ask you something. But we have that dialogue. It's kind of the same kind of thing that we would have when we would be around each other. And you would go, well, don't you think such and such and such? But it was a good faith discussion.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to know what you think. I'm sorry, Harry. Go ahead.
It's not done with the intent to argue or battle or debate. It's just
to learn
knowledge to learn. Yeah. Right. There's a big difference between going, hey, let me ask you about this thing I heard, or going, this thing I heard proves that you're wrong. You know, this thing that they said on Fox News or whatever.
Right. We never.
I watch Fox News, but I'm giving you an extreme example.
Yeah, me and Bobby, we didn't. It wasn't an argument. Like, we weren't trying to win the argument. No. We were just trying to really exchange things, have an exchange of ideas of how do you see this.
Of course. And I want to say this too. Like, when I was younger, it's also, there's a part of it for me was maturity. Like, when I was younger, I get into a conversation, probably out of my own insecurity of not knowing everything. Mm-hmm. I had to win. I had to be right.
Right.
Because admitting I'm wrong made me feel I was less of a person, maybe less of a man.
Right.
Of an educated person with the person I was talking to. And at some point I surrendered to the fact as I got older that I don't know everything, and I'm always going to be learning. And what I feel today could very well easily change tomorrow because the world is constantly changing. There's new ideas, there's new experiences. So now I go into every conversation as, look, I don't know if I'm right. This is what I know based on my experiences, because they're way different than yours and the next guy's. but I'm just going to tell you how I feel, because at the end of the day, as human beings, we all have the same feelings. We all have the same emotions about sadness and guilt and anger. And we just get there differently based on the experiences that we were raised with, right? So your life way different than mine, not because of our color. See,
it is because of our color, but it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. For instance, if I'm a white guy and I live next door to you and you're a black person, and we grew up in the same neighborhood, guess what? We come from the same socioeconomic background.
Right.
You know what? There really isn't that much difference. But I feel society constantly reinforces the differences instead of pushing the things that we have that are similar. Because
I think that there are definitely, I would have to push back on. I think that there is definitely different things. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
One of my best friends, I worked for the phone company for 20 some years. My best friend that I worked with, he gets a call. This was a time when his son was fucking up. And his son broke into a VFW. And don't forget, I want you to answer that question that I asked you, because really. He broke into a VFW. He stole some old guns that were in a case, some gold coins, and some liquor, right?
Right.
And he got a call. We were at work, and he says, "Oh, my son, blah, 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 blah." But, this was like youthful fucking stupidity, And the detective called him and said, "Listen, we got your son. He did this. But, look, we know you're part of the neighborhood." This was like he lived in Jersey, in
some
South
small
Jersey.
town in suburban Jersey.
And he goes, "We know you. We know you're a working guy. Could come in and talk to us, and we'll work something out." Boom, boom. And I instantly was like, "Don't fucking go. Get a lawyer, and do not. Police officers are not on your side, right? Do not go and speak to this guy without a lawyer."
Now, is your friend a white guy?
He's a white guy. He's a white guy. Yeah. He's a white guy, and he's from Denville.
So you're giving him black advice.
He's from Denville, New Jersey. So it's a little white town he lives. And I'm giving him.
I know.
Black legal advice.
I do not go without a lawyer. Don't say nothing. Don't talk to this, because their job is not their job. Like their economics is attached to the collars. Like the way you move up the rank is how you lock people up.
Right. Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, I'm going to go talk." I'm like, "Please don't go just get a lawyer, because getting a lawyer can't hurt you. That could never hurt, right?"
Yeah.
He goes, they talk to him.
Get a white lawyer. Don't get a black lawyer.
Well, I was going to say something else, but I'm not even going to. I'm
just joking around.
But he goes, they say, "Bring the coins back, bring the liquor." Yeah, whatever the liquor is, bring it back, and we'll and he did a little community service, and that was it.
Right.
For stealing guns and money.
Right.
And it was over $500 worth of money, so it was a felony, class 1 felony.
Your point being, if he was a young black kid,
he would have been locked.
Totally different.
They would have put out a warrant for him. They got him, and they would have picked him up, cuffed him.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think there's definitely systemic racism that is built into our society, and it's not just America. If you go to any country, like I was saying,
it's the minority.
It's the majority is usually the people socioeconomically that have more money than the minority.
Yeah, it's also interesting you talk about the socioeconomic, because we're also talking about the majority, but doesn't get treated the same as the rich people. Rich white folks don't have the same experience as poor white people. But I want you to answer this question, because here's the thing: you're behind enemy lines. I don't know if I should say that, right? But you know what I'm saying? What did you learn from it? What did you see?
So like, I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, in a school that was very diversified. I had friends that were black, Hispanic, Vietnamese, all Portuguese, all different types. I didn't grow up with.
But I understand it. But I'm saying you're in a rap. You're in a bus.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up not ever feeling racist toward any ethnicity. That's not how I was raised.
Right.
But through ignorance, right, you still have the stereotypes that are based on really things that you had heard but you never lived, and it's not because you're racist, you just don't know. And they had the same thing about me. So when I went there and I showed up in San Jose for the first night, and they're like, here's the bus. And I thought, they kind of tricked me. They're like, yeah, it's going to be hotels. And then, we're going to go on the bus to city. There'll be hotels too. Well,
yeah.
I stayed in almost a month. I stayed in a hotel one night. And we didn't even sleep over. It was a layover for 4 hours.
Wow.
I slept we had 12 people living on a bus. We were like in little beds, like little pizza ovens on top of each other.
Yeah.
And now here's the thing. I see them, I get on a bus, and this is just like you said, this is not just black, white. This is white guy who grew up in the suburbs on a bus with
Crips.
Bloods, gang members from Thompson. And I think when they say YG, I think he's like manufactured, like, oh, they're trying to make him hard. That's how they're selling him, right? Because who's running the music industry? It's white people usually.
Right. Why would they bring this gangbanger in the game?
So I get there, and I remember pulling up in an Uber. I just came from the airport, and outside the bus was like 30 guys. And they couldn't look any harder. It looked like it looked like a prison yard where people were out just like hanging out.
Right.
And it was like, holy shit. Again, I didn't care, but I was like, my fear was, are they going to accept me?
Right.
Because I don't know if they accept people like me. And I got on the bus, and over the next couple of weeks when we were there, first of all, when I'm out of makeup, they were still referring to me as Donald Trump.
Right.
Oh, that's
funny. To me on the bus, yo, fuck Trump, nigga, fuck Trump. So they were calling me, and it was like, dude, I'm Bob. I'm just a character. It's a parody, right?
Right.
So
they thought you were the guy. It was almost like they were so triggered by it that they thought. So once they got to know you, how did that?
So here's the beauty of it. So after the whole time I was on the bus, I used to get off and I would call my mom, I would call my girlfriend. I was like, they don't want anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. We'd get on the bus, we'd pull in, and they would just nod, but no one was befriended me. No one wanted to hang out with me. No one was like, let's go get lunch. And I learned early on that those, where they come from, number one, and the tour manager is white. He looks like a really tall, skinny white guy. But I realized that the world that they come from, they don't know a lot of white people.
Right.
Well, that's my guess, because they come from the streets of Compton.
Well, they know plenty of white people, but those white people that they know are oppressive and in positions of power, and they're cops. Right. They're the ones that are harassing them.
Or they're the white guys at the label that are fucking them. Right, that are that are constantly trying to make money off them. So I don't think they trust that.
Right.
So when they saw me, there was definitely a huge wall of distrust of like, this guy's an outsider. Who is he? And they didn't want to let me in. And here I am. I'm vulnerable. I'm by myself, living on a bus. Wow. I want nothing to connect with everyone. I want to connect. I want a sense of self-belonging. I want brotherhood.
And you do that anyway. That's your MO. And that's why we're friends.
That's who I am. Yeah. So. There was one guy that I got friendly with. There was one guy, and they used to call him Buddha. And Buddha thought see, here's the funny thing: when you have two people coming from two different worlds, whether you're white, you're black, you're Asian, it doesn't even have to be race; it just be culture. In America, they saw me. There was a curiosity,
right?
Yeah. It's like, who is
this motherfucker?
Yeah, because they don't the same ignorance that I had about them, they had about me.
Right.
They had probably every stereotype in the world: white guy, privileged, from the suburbs, looks coppish, does Trump on our show, and I'm looking at them like thugs, gangbangers. Yeah. So I'm going there trying to connect with them, but there was a distrust. So over the period of the month that I was with them, I had a little situation with one of them where I would come in we would be in the back room, the green room, the locker room before the show, and YG thought I was hilarious. but he's a very quiet guy.
Right.
And all of his friends, they just were like, they had to put up with me because I had to go on stage every night. They needed me.
Right.
But no one was my friend. But this one guy, Buddha, got friendly because he was almost infatuated with my whiteness.
Right.
Like, he used all these words. He'd be like, "Yo, we'd be chopping it up in the back." I'm like, "Chopping it up? What are we doing?" What are we talking about? He's like, "No, chop it up. We're talking. We're rapping." So like every day he was teaching me new words on the street, and he was thought it was so hilarious that I knew nothing about what he was talking about.
Right.
I was like a little child he was taking under his wing, that he was teaching me the rules of the street, and through me he found that I was just hilarious because I was always funny. And anyway, so that was the only guy that I got friendly with, but there was a lot of mistrust. And one night they were breaking, like they all like to break each other's balls and everything, and they're like, "Oh, Trump with that wig, he like a transvestite. Look at him, he like a tranny." So for fun, I thought, again, ignorance, I went over to one of them with the Trump wig on and pretended to blow him in the middle of everyone in the locker room.
No,
30 guys there,
no, you can't do that.
all black, and I stick my head between the guy's legs like I'm gonna give him a blowjob. Everyone's like, "Yo, shit, he didn't just do that. Oh my God." They're like jumping around going crazy. Oh shit, and they're going nuts. So I think it's hilarious. I mean, and everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe he did that. Oh shit, Trump be giving him a blowjob. Trump be blowing that motherfucker. Oh shit." So later that night, Slim 400 on the bus is furious at me. We get the show's over, we're all on the bus. He's like, "Yo, motherfucker, you don't be doing that shit. You don't be making no gay jokes." So I'm like, no, you don't get it. I'm a comedian. I'm just fucking around. You guys said I was a tranny, had the wig on. I was just joking. He's like, "You don't do that shit." And he got so mad. And then I was like, so then the New York came out of me, and I was like,
well, you did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for how many years now? I mean,
I still do it, although I haven't been back in almost 2 years because of COVID. But yeah, but not only that, but like you have your ethos, your values, your sense of who you are, and you're not backing down, not because you want to be a tough guy. You're like, "Look, I'm dignified. I have my own self-respect." And I was like, "Look, I'm trying to talk to you. I was just kidding. Like, I wasn't trying to make, upset you." And then he kept going on, and he was like kind of in my face. And then he was like, "You don't do that shit." And I was like, "Bro, like, I'm from New York. Like, I grew up. I have a lot of friends everywhere. You're not going to intimidate me by, getting pissed off, because I don't give a shit."
Right.
And all the other guys started to respect me because they saw that I didn't back down.
Right.
Whereas most people, they're like, "Whoa, this motherfucker, he knows that we could all like pounce his ass."
And he's still keeping his hole in his ground.
And after that day, one guy came up to me then like a day later, and he was like, "Yo, I respect the fact that you're who you are.
Right.
You're not pretender. You're not a pretender, And so I started gaining respect incrementally, and it wasn't like a physical thing. Like I would never want to get in a fight with him because I liked the guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, but you got to defend yourself.
Yeah, but I was more defending, like, dude, like I'm just. Why are you coming at me? Like, I'm trying to explain to you. I'm coming at it as a comedian. I'm just being funny. You're taking it like I'm attacking your manhood. Like, you see how we have two different ways of thinking here? I wasn't trying to disrespect you, and I know you're not trying to disrespect me. You just don't understand what happened.
Right.
And after that, like, I started getting more and more. They got a little. They never became my friend. But what happens? The tour ends. Meanwhile, they would have like Fight Club every night after the show, where they would go in the back in the locker room, and they would all they take turns squaring up with each other and slap fighting.
Jesus
I didn't know that was like a thing.
Slap boxing, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like YG is like going with his bodyguard, and his bodyguard's like 220, 230, jacked, and I'm like, I tried to break it up. That was another white move. I'm like, what the fuck? Holy shit. Stop. Why isn't anyone stopping this? Stop it. Break it up. YG's got to go on tomorrow night. And YG's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, we do this every night, And they just bloody lip, and they're throwing each other over tables. And I was like, white guys don't do that. Like, white guys, like, if one guy because one guy always gets mad at the other guy, and then it turns into a real fight.
Right.
I never do that with my friends.
Right.
Maybe when I was 15, not in my 30s or 40s, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like a thing they do. They no, that's what we do. We do that shit. So all these different things. So anyway, I do the tour. It ends. 2 years later, they call me to go to Coachella. I did Coachella, 2019.
Wow.
80,000 people. YG's manager calls me one night. He's like, "I'm here at YG. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm hanging out. I just got home." They're like, "Hey, you want to come do Coachella?" I'm like, "Shit, yeah." And I go back. I'm on a plane. I show up. I go out to LA. I meet up with them where Coachella is, which is out near Palm Springs or whatever. And they're hugging me. They're all
really
like, all his buddies.
Oh, like soon as you showed up, you were like, "Oh my dude, what the fuck?" And how did you respond? Like you didn't even know that you were making friends. That
They were Dante. They were happy to see me because that 2 years earlier that we developed a bond,
right?
And the answer,
that you weren't even aware of.
No, and the answer to your question is that when I tell people this all the time, I had my own stereotypes of them. They had them of me, and I came back and to this day, like I'll go on these white shows where guys would be like, "Oh my God, dude, you were with a bunch of gang members. Oh my God." And they're already like, they want to shit on the gang.
Yeah, yeah.
Drive-by shootings. Oh my, bloods.
Right.
Like, dude, you don't get it. Like I'm defending them. I go, you don't get it. I go, how is that different? I go, you don't understand because you didn't grow up like them. Did you grow up where on your street, if you went a street, down, that you might get stabbed to death? So you have to join a group of guys that live on your street to protect you. Did you grow up like that? No, you didn't. And if you grew up like that, you'd be in a gang too. But they have these labels. It's all about labels. And, they think gang member blood. You're like, you're instantly a thug. You're a criminal. And most of these guys on the bus with, they're not criminals.
Right.
They had to join each other for protection.
The circumstances. That's what the circumstances required.
So I'm white, getting furious at white people for being so dumb that they don't know, like you're attacking my brothers that I lived on a bus with.
Now let me ask you this: that when you went back and you saw, and you showed up, the whole crew was still there. The whole crew was still there, and they just threw. They were just like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like, Now, and I already know the answer to this. Like, if you ran into them again, like, say if you ended up somewhere and you ran into them at doing something or whatever, not even that kind of bond that they would have you will be like that forever. You know what I mean? You could be 50 and run into these motherfuckers, and they would. It's an interesting thing.
So YG called me to do his video. I don't know if you guys can look up. You can.
I'll look it up. We'll look it up.
YG's #1 hit song on his new album was "Jealous." That was his big hit. I think was it called "Jealous"? Wait.
It's one called "Jealous." Yeah, YG Jealous.
So if you type in on YouTube "Jealous" parody, I play Trump on there.
Okay.
And it's me doing lip syncing his song. He's not even in the video. It's me. The whole video is me.
Oh, really?
He called me right before the election, a year and a half ago, to come out as Trump. And I flew out to LA again twice in a week, and we shot the video. And the whole video is me with a bunch of strippers. And the whole video is me as Trump.
Right.
It's got a couple million views.
Yeah.
And so he kept calling me to give me work.
And that's the other thing is the work is a byproduct of the friendship.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Nobody, we don't let you don't let you make money if I don't like you.
I'm watching the video. I can't put it up because they'll take it down for copyright.
Why? They'll take it down? It's not. There's no nudity in it.
No,
but they'll take it down for copyright.
YG owns it.
Oh, I
so
see.
we can't because we post this. But the paint job they do on you is ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
They went for comedy, not accuracy on this, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's just great.
It's over the top.
Yeah, it's so over the top, and the suit is so baggy and untailored.
Yeah. So that video. So yeah, to answer your question, I learned a lot because I really empathize with these guys, the way they grew up. And many of them, they don't have dads. They didn't have a family unit. They didn't have people looking out for them. And their only family were the people were their friends.
Right.
So I really developed a fond respect for them. And for whatever areas of their life, of their being that was unpolished, because some of them are, they're street.
Yeah.
I got it. They didn't have the opportunities I had. So I in a lot of ways, I feel very bonded to them and close to them. And I felt sorry for them because I was older than them. I mean, I'm in my,
you're not a kid. Yeah.
And they're in their 20s. So I almost felt like their uncle, like, I want to help you guys. Let me teach you a little bit what I know,
Right.
And I think they learned a lot about me, that I wasn't a threat. So there was a lot of learning going on. So that was what was beautiful about it, because you really don't, when you get close to somebody, I would say, like guys that fight in the military and you go off to a war, you play in a team, they're your brothers. It doesn't matter. The first thing you see is the color. It's like if you see someone with a limp or in a wheelchair, immediately, like
that's what you see.
Right. And then when you break past that, you don't see them anymore in a chair or we're just brothers, and that's really how it is. And if YG called me today and said, listen, I want to do something, I would always work with him. I thought he was nothing but awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a great guy. Look, he's got a checkered. I mean, he's been shot, I think, like 5 or 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a rough go of it. I can't imagine growing up the way they grow up, And
Yeah.
I had his grandmother kissing me on the cheek, taking pictures with me. So it was so cool.
What's really interesting about that as well is, like, you learn, and this is something I talk about a lot of times when you talk about comedy, is like comedy. What the funny part of comedy is figuring out what the line of humanity is through a shared, through a shared, I guess, existence. So, like I do this joke now where I go, on 3 different occasions I've had dudes pull guns out on me, and when I was young I fought them, right? Because that was what we did. I go, now that sounds like I'm bragging until I tell you that I'm afraid of spiders, right? And so if you try to rob me with a gun, I'll fuck you up. But if you have hairy arms and you move them like this, I'll fuck you up. I'll here, take my wallet, right? Yeah. And then I go, I'm afraid of spiders the same way women are afraid of getting their period while wearing white pants. And so what you start to understand that fear is something, it's human. And because it's human, we just have to make it relevant to who you are. What your fear is not my fear. What their fear is not their fear, so on and so forth. Kareem Green is scared of pigeons. And Kareem will fight anybody. But you throw a pigeon at him, you could rob him by pigeon. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting thing that you start to see the humanity in people. It was really, because you and I have had these really long discussions and stuff, and it's interesting because when you first started telling this story, I don't know if you felt this, Harry, but like I was like, oh, they're gonna accept him.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually they accept him, but you're also talking about gang culture.
Yeah, gang culture is a little different.
Yeah, gang culture is like you can't, that line, but then it's interesting having that learned experience, and then you go back and then they go, did they still call you Trump, or did they call you Bob, or
They still call me Trump.
They definitely call you Trump the whole time, and not even in a bad way. They're like, yo, Trump, you want some pizza? We're all getting pizza.
Yeah, it was a term of endearment.
Right.
Yeah.
YG follows me on Twitter, and like, these guys know they can call me anytime. And it really comes down to trust.
Yeah.
It's not about ethnic, culture, creed, gender. It's about trust. When you trust somebody, all of those walls come down.
Yeah.
And it's like when someone meets you, they're going to look at you and they're going to like, and it's just normal. And it's not racist. Yeah. It's just people will create.
Well, it's a bias. You got to call it what it is. It's a bias. We have an innate bias. We all have an innate bias.
It's not always about a color thing. Someone could look at a small black guy could look at you, and you're a big, intimidating black guy.
Yeah, I get it.
This guy's a badass. He's a tough guy. He's not gentle. He's hard. He's rigid, and you're nothing like that. There's a part of you have a shell, a veneer that can be that if you choose.
Oh, yeah, we can get greasy if we got him, but
and there's another part of you that's a very loving, caring guy that's that has looking for a human connection, and that's what makes you what's the word? We're complicated beings. We're not that simple.
Layered.
So someone could look at you with the tattoos and be like, "Oh, this guy looks like this," and you're nothing like that. And when we got to know each other, these guys, once we developed a trust as human beings with each other, all that other shit, you realize how stupid it is. It's all minutia.
Yeah. I see your girl fucking with the bananas in the back.
Yeah, no, she was sucking on one about a minute ago.
So I was gonna ask her, are you and your girl still together? Tell her I said hi.
Dante says hi. That's his way. That's his way of hitting on you. Dante will always find a way to try to bang one of my girlfriends.
Well, I mean, I've been lucky a lot of years, Bobby.
I know you have. Well, there's a reason why they call you the pimp.
That's so dope, man. So y'all are living together. You and your lady living together now?
We
No.
started staying with each other. Me and Denise have been together 11 years. Denise. Yeah. 11
Wow, that's crazy. Because I met Denise when you guys first got together.
Did you ever meet her?
Yes.
She did. I would tell her to come over, but she's not wearing makeup, so I don't want her to. I don't want her. I want you to at least have a filter on. But Denise is great because she's as disgusting and perverted as I am.
Yeah.
As we are as comedians.
Yeah.
She was the only girl that when I met her, there's nothing because I always try to find the line, like how far can I go?
Right. Oh, we know.
Yeah, I can't offend her. Like it's unbelievable. No matter what I do, and she's filthy. She thinks like she's got a porno in her head. She's just irreverent. I don't know. I can't do it. My other ex-girlfriends, you say one little thing and they flip the fuck out. They go,
Yeah.
That's why she's your ex-girlfriend.
That's why she's
Who needs that?
Right.
Yeah.
Who needs that? Where's the
How did she respond to all this? I'm sorry, Harry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, nothing. Listen.
How did she? You know, I mean, because you're on the road a lot. I mean, I know you always did the road a lot. How does that affect? Well, I guess it's better, right?
Here's the thing, because we're talking, it's a relationship show.
Yeah.
You have to find somebody, and this is, I think this is really for anybody. You got to find someone who is independent, because I used to date a lot of girls that like, they didn't have anything going on their own end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you touch on this all the time on your show.
Yeah.
They didn't have, and this could be anybody. If you don't have your own shit going on, and then you find someone and you try to make them the center of your universe and you revolve around them, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you because you're relying on them to give you happiness. And it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on them to give you that. And so like Denise is a very independent woman. I mean, she's got her own hobbies and interests. So when I go away, you know, I'm not worried about her like calling me 12 times a day going, oh my God, like, what are you doing? And being insecure. She's very secure with her, you know, with her femininity, with her womanhood, with our relationship.
She's a bad bitch.
She's a bad bitch. Denise. She's yelling out Brooklyn. She's a Brooklyn girl too. Yeah. So like, you know, they don't fuck around, you know.
Where in Brooklyn? Where in Brooklyn is she from?
From Brooklyn, Denise. Please yell out a black area so we feel.
No, she's gonna say Sheepshead Bay. She's gonna say Howard Beach.
Yeah.
Flatbush.
Flatbush.
Yeah, I got run out of there.
Did you? He ran you out. Why?
Past Avenue K. You couldn't go past Avenue K.
Why? Is Flatbush like a mix? Isn't that like a diverse?
Well, Flatbush is real. Is heavy West Indian immigrants now, but past like Avenue K is very Jewish and Italian, and so like there was a time if you went past Avenue K, you could get hit with a bat. You know what I mean? Like
as a black guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
so
my dad was a cop in Crown Heights.
Okay. Oh, it gets better.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, tell her I live in Crown. I grew up in Crown Heights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he probably arrested you.
I've never got caught. I didn't say I never did anything, but I never got caught. What precinct was he in?
71st.
71st precinct.
Now, 71st and 77 was the worst precincts ever. Denise probably got some of that drug money stashed away.
So,
how do you think we went to Disney World every year?
Denise's dad was, during the Crown Heights riots.
Yeah.
He was in all that shit.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna, and you know, speaking of which, we're talking about race, but also like her dad. I come from a different place than her dad. Her dad was a cop. I have a lot of friends that are cops, but her dad saw a lot of really horrible shit.
Yeah.
So her dad, when I met him through my relationship with him, I didn't understand him. You know, he's kind of inward. He's introverted. He's kind of brash. He's not really one that is really gregarious and outgoing. And he didn't really let me in for a long time as her boyfriend.
Right.
And I was like, what's his problem? But I didn't understand. See, here's the difference. Like, not even a race thing. This is a guy that it's generational.
It's a cop. It's also a cop thing.
Yeah, old school Italian cop. He's had a lot of trauma that he's seen. He said, he's like, look, I saw babies, you know, in microwaves and
Yeah.
He goes to therapy. You know, he goes to therapy. He's had a lot of trauma. So
well,
like
that's crazy because you so many of those dudes don't do therapy, and they're the way they comfort themselves is through alcohol and drugs, and then they're in a, like, they're together, like the support. It's like the whole, it's kind of like the whole Proud Boy thing, how there's a website, or like the incel dudes, they're all together comforting each other in this kind of misery, but they're in an echo chamber where you don't have. So it's interesting that he's an old school dude who's actually going to therapy, which is so progressive.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really progressive thing, especially for an old Italian dude who was a cop. You know, like there's a documentary about the 7-7, which is the precinct next to it, where they was, you know, it's like legendary about they were robbing drug dealers and killing murders.
She saw it.
Yeah, crazy. And honest, the 771 wasn't. There was a lot of dudes from the 71. I mean, that was kind of the practice of. I mean, the biggest thing was going on in the 77, but the 71 was interesting. But how did you breach that? How were you able to breach that?
With her dad.
Yeah.
Well, I think we talk about it's trust. I think it's getting to learn and know more about me as a man, and maybe developing a respect for me.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
I think that warmed him up to me. I mean, I don't think he was ever nice to any of her boyfriends. It wasn't that he was mean. He just
no.
He was apathetic.
Well, also you got to understand a cop's mentality is they're always observing.
Yeah.
They're always what doesn't fit in this.
And again, it's again like it's human beings being human beings. I'm coming from a place of like looking at it on the outside, like, what's his problem? Like, I'm a good guy. Why is it? I felt disrespected by him that he wasn't so loving and more welcoming.
Love me. I'm funny. I'm great. What's wrong with you?
I'm a good guy.
I'm charming.
Yeah, and he's probably looking at it like, well, why doesn't this guy show me respect?
And why does this guy shut up?
Yeah, why is he throwing his corny jokes at me over dinner? This motherfucker is so dumb. But he has, coming from his generation, a lot of stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of embedded views.
Bias.
Yes.
Embedded bias.
And I'm sitting at the dinner table with Denise, and Denise wasn't raised like that, but we're hearing stuff that we're like, whoa, like, that's sad that you think that way. But I get mad, and I'd be like, Denise, if he says that shit again, I'm just going to get up and leave the table.
Uh-huh.
But then I'm like, but then another part of me was like, he doesn't know any better because he was only exposed to the worst of every different culture.
Yeah.
He says these things about someone's culture or creed, and he's being somewhat, what's the word? He's being disrespectful about it.
Right.
It's because he's never. I know if he was around people that were not of that ilk. Because
right. Well, I mean, you're a police officer, so you deal with the worst. The 1% of the people who are worse, but here's the thing: some of the worst individuals in the world were these cops. They were bigger criminals. I mean, if you look at if you get a chance, check out the 7-7 documentary. They were murderers, drug dealers, just horrible. But what's interesting is, I think sometimes we give a little bit too much wiggle room for that, because you didn't treat those other cops, those dirty cops, the same way. You didn't judge them in that same way. Somehow they were family men and went wrong and things did it, but you don't give the same wiggle room for people of a different culture
100%.
of whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird thing. It's like I've evolved. I get how we say I feel sorry for it, but I don't. I mean, not her father, but what I'm saying is this happens because all you have to do is turn it around and say, do I want somebody to treat me that way? Would I want somebody to treat my daughter that way or my son that way? Yeah. And if you say no, then your actions are unacceptable.
Yeah. See,
the problem is you don't see people as in the same way. When it's turned around, it's different for them. And one of the things that I think I've always respected about you is that you're not a hypocrite. So if I said A, B, C, and D and it was true, you would go, like, good point, I never thought about that, as opposed to the sense of me defending a position that I don't really know. I mean, Bobby, I know you got to get out of here. It's late as shit, but I plug whatever you want to plug. Anything you got going on?
I'm going to plug Denise, I think, at some point.
I mean, I think you should, but social media,
anything? See that if we need to.
No, just if people want to go on, on Instagram, it's at Bob DiBuono. I put up a lot of funny videos on TikTok, YouTube channel, and I know we didn't get too much into relationships.
But this was a great story, and I mean,
really good story.
You know. Bobby, I love you, man. I miss you, bro.
I hope we could get together, brother.
I really hope so, too. I'll see you. You know, we'll be around. We ain't going nowhere.
And we get in fights all the time, so I'm happy to come on and talk about this disaster of a relationship, all right?
All right, we'll do that again. We'll come back and do that again. I love you, bro.
Take care, man. I love you, man.
All right.
Take care.
Yo, Harry, plug it.
You could go to all my stuff at Harry Terjanian. That's where all my stuff is on social media. And most importantly, go over to the Patreon, where we're going to be doing bonus content. We're going to be answering some listener mail and then giving out some more relationship advice. So patreon.com/manschool202.
You know me. Google me, bitch. Just all my social media. One-on-one consultations, DanteNero.com. Click on consult. GYBB, get your balls back. WWDD, what would Dante do? The sexual revolutions being podcasted. I love y'all, man. Don't forget the Patreon. Sign up, patreon.com/manschool202. Peace. We out of here.